The annual Catholic Appeal. 60 years of changing lives in Western Massachusetts. Sharing, teaching, reaching. Respecting the dignity of life at all ages. Our Catholic mission calls us to be Christ in our world right now. Please donate to the annual Catholic Appeal today and help us put faith in action.
Coming up on this edition of Reel to Reel, we'll give you a preview of the new movie Unplanned and tell you how it's connected to the 40 Days for Life campaign. I'm Carolee McGrath. I'll have the story.
I'm Steve Kiltonick at the Northampton Senior Center, where an all-day workshop was held to address the issue of safety and security in houses of worship.
And Dan Dumas has the latest news on the Diocese of Springfield. These stories and more are just ahead on this edition of Reel to Reel. Hello and welcome to Reel to Reel. Once again, a senseless act of violence has taken place in a house of worship as a gunman killed 50 in New Zealand on March 18th. In the wake of this and other recent news events, it has become increasingly important for churches and other houses of worship to address safety and security. Steve Kiltonick was in Northampton recently for a training program held to help make our faith communities safer.
On March 15th, a lone gunman walked into two mosques in Christchurch, New Zealand, killing 50 people as they worshiped. This tragedy is the latest in a growing list of houses of worship across the world which have been targets of gun violence. Congregations of all faiths have been victimized. In 2018, 11 are killed at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh. 2017, at the First Baptist Church in Sutherland Springs, Texas, 26 are murdered, including an unborn child. That same year, 17 are killed at the Islamic Center in Quebec City, Canada. 2015, 9 worshipers who gathered for prayer and Bible study are gunned down at the historic Emmanuel African Methodist Episcopal Church in Charleston, South Carolina. 2012, Milwaukee, 6 worshipers at the Sikh temple are killed before Sunday services. These horrific crimes get the attention of a world audience and begs the question, how can these violent attacks in houses of worship, which the FBI calls soft targets, be prevented? An active shooter event was one of the topics of discussion at a one-day workshop on safety and security, held March 5th at the Northampton Senior Center. More than 100 people from faith-based communities and law enforcement across Western Massachusetts gathered for the comprehensive training called Protecting Your House of Worship with Compassion and Common Sense. Clergy and staff from Catholic churches, synagogues, mosques, meeting houses, and other faith groups attended. It was sponsored by the Northampton Police Department and the Northwestern District Attorney's Office, headed by David Sullivan. The DA's Lori Rossell said the Northampton PD reached out to them because a number of faith-based organizations were looking for assistance on how to make their communities safer.
Faith communities, by their very nature, are kind of trusting, and so it's sort of a bit of a culture change that they have to think about how to secure their institutions.
Thomas Gillen of Training Force USA conducted the training. Gillen worked 20 years in the Orlando Diocese, developing security plans for parishes. After the Emmanuel AME shootings, he was contacted by the Charleston County Sheriff to educate people on safety and security issues. Since then, he's crisscrossed the country, educating faith groups and law enforcement personnel.
I can't tell you how many pastors I run into and say, we don't need anything like this because we've got God, and God's going to keep us protected. God will keep you protected, there's no doubt about it, but Scripture tells us that Nehemiah posted a guard, and he stood guard, because there will always be something happening around you. And that's where we talk about situational awareness.
Gillen's training addresses a comprehensive list of safety issues.
We look at the big picture. We look at the active shooter, but the chances of that happening, according to law enforcement, very slim. But we look at some other things like burglary, robbery, sexual assault, sexual abuse, those type of issues, to make people understand that there's a lot more to keeping your place of worship safe and secure.
Gillen also talked about de-escalating situations involving the mentally ill and how to handle heart attacks, diabetic comas, or those who become disruptive during a service.
And I give them the information, some tools, some skills things that they can actually take back and start using immediately.
Gillen hopes people come away from the workshop with a more proactive attitude toward safety and the beginnings of their own action plan for their parish. Rob Jolly is from St. Elizabeth Ann Seton Parish.
We've had a few break-ins in the back where they've damaged the tabernacle, they've damaged the sacristy. So we're looking for target hardening to keep them out of the church. We've got to become rather proactive about protecting the church and its congregation and the parish and the parishioners. You know, we just can't sit back anymore and think it's not going to happen here. It could.
Jim Senny traveled from Our Lady of the Hills Parish with another member of the parish council.
The number one thing when you watch the news and these horrible events happen is that's the theme that's often repeated when people are interviewed. We never thought it would happen here, and the reality is it does. You're very vulnerable. By the very nature of our work, which is evangelization and outreach, our doors are open.
Senny learned that it's often the simple things that are overlooked.
So what strikes me most is the little things that we could do. Making sure a door is locked, looking at exterior lighting. If you have exterior lighting, are all the bulbs working? And also we're learning to work with the community, not only with local first responders, with the police, but also just people in the neighborhood, whether they're worshipers at our church or not, to help keep the community safe.
Deb Bryan-Sesko was with a group from Sacred Heart Parish.
We're very proactive, and I mean that by we've already got cameras in place. We have a security system in our parish center as well as our church now. And then we formed this ministry for security. Once you get a floor plan, you get to build on it, and we're looking to see what tools we gain from today, where we go next to build off of what we have already.
Based on what she heard, Bryan-Sesko believes her parish's plan is a good first step.
And as a nurse, I know what it's like on that other side of the fence too when disaster strikes. It's ugly. And you don't want to see that happen, so you want to do as much as you can to prevent those incidences from happening.
All attendees received a packet filled with information and resources, including sample safety and security policies and procedures. Every attendee also left with a certificate. For Real to Real, I'm Steve Kiltonic.
And Steve tells us that it was suggested that every parish start a discussion to develop and implement a safety and security plan, no matter how small. The diocese hopes to hold information sessions soon. And still to come on Real to Real, Dan Dumas has the latest news from the Diocese of Springfield, and Carolee McGrath has the unplanned story of former Planned Parenthood Clinic Director Abby Johnson. These stories and more are all still to come on Real to Real.
The Chalice of Salvation, your weekly spiritual connection. I'm Passionist Brother Terrence Gallon, inviting you to take time out of your busy day and join us Sunday morning. We welcome back Father Mark Stelzer as our presider and celebrate the third Sunday of Lent. The Chalice of Salvation, Sunday mornings at 10 on 22 News, and coming up next on Fox 23 WXXA.
The Annual Catholic Appeal. 60 years of changing lives in Western Massachusetts. Sharing, teaching, reaching. Respecting the dignity of life at all ages. Our Catholic mission calls us to be Christ in our world right now. Please donate to the Annual Catholic Appeal today and help us put faith in action.
Travel with Catholic Communications in August 2020 for the pilgrimage of the decade as we experience the Oberammergau Passion Play. Join Springfield Bishop Mitchell Rosansky and Father Gary Daly for the spiritual journey to Germany and the village of Oberammergau. Since 1634, this famous play has been performed every 10 years in this quaint alpine village. Our 10-day pilgrimage will begin in Brussels, Belgium, and continue through Cologne, Heidelberg, Oberammergau, and Munich, Germany. With daily breakfast and dinners included, pilgrims will enjoy daily Mass in many of Germany's brilliant cathedrals and churches, a cruise on the Rhine River, a tour of Cologne's cathedral treasury containing the staff of St. Peter, and a visit to Munich's famous Glockenspiel. Book this incredible opportunity now for $5,439. For more information, go to iobserve.org.
I'm Dan Dumas with your Reel-to-Reel news briefs. Throughout the diocese, the season of Lent is being marked through parish missions and other spiritual events. In Westfield, Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament Parish is hosting a series of Wednesday evening talks with various speakers addressing the question, why am I Catholic? Kathy Harrington reports.
I wanted to give people a sense of what my job was like as a reporter.
Ray Herschel spent 50 years delivering the news in Western Massachusetts. Included in his work were scathing stories about the sexual abuse crisis in the Catholic Church. Recently, he opened the Lenten speaker series, Founded in Faith, Why I Am Catholic, at Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament Church in Westfield, to an audience of more than 350 people.
My perspective as a reporter, it's a unique perspective because, people can read about headlines or read stories, but as a reporter, when you experience the stories, when you interview the newsmakers one-on-one as we're being interviewed, you get a whole different perspective and feeling about pain, about suffering, about how these sexual abuse victims, how this impacted their lives.
Herschel says his television news career also provided experiences to grow in his faith.
On one end, you've got the bad, the difficult stories that really tear at your insides as a Catholic, but then you've got those stories where your faith comes alive when you're in the presence of the Holy Father. A million other Catholics praying, all there with the same feeling, the same common bond. So that uplifts you and that strengthens your faith like you wouldn't believe. It's just very, very uplifting.
Wrapping up, Herschel was thanked with a heartwarming ovation. Members of the audience lined up to greet Herschel following the talk.
He was just so uplifting. He is such a good man of faith, and he helps me to be able to express even more than I already do, that I'm proud to be a Catholic.
Well, I've been watching Ray Herschel for years on TV, and I was delighted. He actually goes to my church, St. Thomas, and he's a wonderful speaker, and I just love what he said tonight. He was so inspiring.
There's a reason that those of us that stay within the Catholic faith continue to do so with good reason. And Mr. Herschel, I think, really did a wonderful job in summing up for us this evening.
A lot of that is due to my faith, my belief in the liturgy, that we live the Word of God. Our church is not the abusive priests. Our church are the faithful, the people who follow Jesus' word. The good priests in our church who do God's work day in and day out.
The Wednesday Lenten speaker series continues through April 17th. I'm Kathy Harrington.
And you can find a complete listing of all parish Lenten events at the homepage of diospringfield.org. And last weekend, things were hopping in Holyoke as that city hosted its annual St. Patrick's celebration, which included a 10K road race on Saturday. As Nick Morganelli reports, the PTO of Mater Dolorosa School, which sits right at the starting line, provided a valuable service to some of the more than 6,000 runners.
With running shoes ready and smiles on, runners and walkers including American heroes, superheroes, and even canine heroes participated in the 44th annual Holyoke St. Patrick's Road Race.
Well, I like this kind of weather, actually. I like it to be a little bit chilly. That way when you run and your heart rate goes up, you just warm up just perfect.
Temperatures in the mid-40s, sun and clouds, and a moderate breeze was more than participants could ask for. And no matter what the weather is, they can always count on the Mater Dolorosa School for help. PTO Communications Coordinator Lisa Balicki explains the service they provide for participants.
The road race committee asked the school, because of our location, if we would be willing to do this. This is my 6th year running it. So we ask for volunteers from school families and all the runners. It's a free service for them to come and drop their personal belongings so that they're dry and safe while they run, and then when they're done they come back and pick their things up. It takes an army. We generally need between 40 and 60 people to run this event successfully. We have folks who are getting bib numbers onto the bags for the runners to put their things in. We have Mostly students, because they have more energy than us, to run the bags into the gym and make sure that they're put in the right number boxes so that they can be retrieved quickly at the end. Our 8th graders are awesome. They've been doing this, the ones that are here have been doing this with me for 6 years now, and so they get to see a lot of the same people every year too. It's a really fun event. We have all the snack table has items for runners primarily, and then we've added on last year a grill station outside, so you can get hamburgers, cheeseburgers, hot dogs, sausage grinders, all that fun stuff for anybody that just happens to be in the area. The funds that are raised from the parking lot go into the endowment fund for the school. So all of the money that's raised through donations or through food sales for this whole day go 100% back into the school.
My daughter was a graduate of Blessed Sacrament School, and we were tied in tightly with Mater Dei Rosa. We would come here for basketball games. It's a wonderful community.
We spoke with this father-daughter team that used the drop-off service and ran together for the very first time.
I would say that I am in shape, but I'm nervous for the race because I haven't really run a large distance before, but I'm hoping to get a pretty good time.
Jillian's dad only began running recently to improve his health.
I started running occasionally, and I said, well, I might as well run the race. I've never run a legitimate road race, so this was my first 3 years ago, and this is the only race I run, and this is my 3rd year. My goals are just to finish, it's an accomplishment, and it's great. There's people all over the place. They're cheering you on. They're trying to give you a hand. It's a wonderful place.
Congratulations to Jillian running just over a 10-minute mile, and Richard wasn't far behind. Great work. In Holyoke, I'm Nick Morganelli.
Finally, it was an all-too-familiar setting for the boys hockey team at Pope Francis Prep last Sunday, as they again faced off for the state championship, this year against Boston College High. Steve Kiltonic was there and brings us the story.
The goal of this year's Pope Francis Preparatory School hockey team was to get back to the Division I Super 8 tourney final at Boston's TD Garden. They were hoping to erase the memory of this. Last year's dramatic 2-1 overtime loss to arch-rival BC High. With a senior-laden team, head coach Brian Foley felt good about his team's chances.
We haven't had a captain in 2 years just because we want our seniors to all be leaders. I think the 12 seniors have done a great job providing leadership, mentorship to the younger players, and just creating a really close-knit locker room, which has been big for us the last 2 years.
During the regular season, Pope Francis and BC High were the undisputed top 2 teams in Division 1A. They met twice, with the Eagles winning early 5-4, handing the Cardinals their only loss of the season. In January, they tied 2-2. After 2 wins in the preliminary round, the Cardinals beat the Eagles 3-2 in the bracket final, giving them a ticket to the championship. The Eagles survived their semifinal to set up a rematch at TD Garden. On the Friday before the game, the team received a send-off luncheon in the school cafeteria. There was pizza, cake, and photo ops. The operative word of the week being Roll Pope. Afterwards, the team watched highlight reels of their previous win against BC High and started to strategize. Foley was cautiously optimistic.
There's really not a lot to say at this point in the year. I mean, we've been there. We lost last year to the same opponent. We've played them 3 times this year. It's two very good teams going at each other. We both know each other well. It's just a great opportunity. Hopefully the kids enjoy it and make the most of the opportunity. Every kid probably grows up hoping to play in the Boston Garden. Most of these guys to play there twice, I think will be a experience factor will be in our favor. It's incredibly exciting, not only to represent the school, but Western Mass as a whole.
On Sunday, March 17th, St. Patrick's Day, hundreds of fans, including students, alumni, and friends, loaded 2 buses for the trek down the pike to Boston. In the Garden, the atmosphere for the championship was electric as the Cardinals took to the ice. Pope Francis drew first blood with just 4 minutes gone in the first period when senior Cormac Hayes converted on a pass from behind the net by sophomore Matthew Burke. The next 2 periods were a rough defensive stalemate as each team missed some high-quality scoring chances. The Cardinals' top line of seniors Macom Demers, Max Kochi, and John Tavella couldn't find the back of the net. Sophomore goalie Ben Zaranek was superhuman in the net, with 45 saves, constantly rejecting Eagles shots. The BC goalie was also outstanding, blocking numerous Cardinal opportunities. Meanwhile, the Cardinals' defensive core was shutting down the Eagles' high-flying Kramer brothers. With less than 2 minutes left in regulation, BC High pulled its goalie, and a Cardinal shot sailed past the empty goal. But the luck of the Irish was not with the Cardinals this night. With a minute and a half left, a Pope Francis player was sent to the penalty box, and 33 seconds later, BC's Joe Kramer scored on a power play to tie it up 1-1. The game went into the first overtime, then into a second overtime, still no score. In the third extra period, it became a 4-on-4 game. Both teams had numerous chances to end the drama. With 5:38 left in the fourth overtime, Eagles freshman defenseman Declan Loughnane split two Cardinals on the left wing and fired a wrist shot past Zaranek, ending the longest boys hockey final in state history. For Pope Francis, history repeated itself as the Cardinals lost another heartbreaker 2-1, again to nemesis BC High under strangely similar circumstances. In both title games, the championship was in their grasp, but they failed to hold the league with under 2 minutes left. After both teams exchanged congratulatory handshakes, the Cardinals received their medals and second-place trophy. But this game will forever go down as an instant classic, one that players and fans on both sides will remember, long after the photos begin to fade and the medals start to tarnish. Speaking to the press after the epic battle, Coach Foley, in his 15th season as coach of the Cardinals, called the defeat the best game I've ever been part of. Despite the loss of the seniors, Foley feels there is enough talent on this team to contend for the Super 8 championship again next year. One has to believe that somehow Pope Francis will find a way back, and maybe next year 3 times will be the charm. In Boston, I'm Steve Kiltonic.
And remember, you can always stay informed on all the latest news in the Catholic Church locally and beyond by logging on to iobserve.org. There you can read articles written by our Catholic communications staff, as well as view archived episodes of Reel to Reel. That's iobserve.org. I'm Dan Dumas, and those were your Reel to Reel news briefs.
You are watching Reel to Reel, your window on the world around you. Here again is your Reel to Reel host, Sharon Roulier.
Abby Johnson was a former director of a Planned Parenthood clinic in College Station, Texas, who walked off the job after she says she witnessed an ultrasound-guided abortion. Several years ago, Johnson wrote a book called Unplanned, which was turned into a movie scheduled for release soon. Carolee McGrath attended a preview screening at the Newman Center at UMass and has this report.
Inside of the Newman Catholic Center at UMass Amherst, students gathered for a movie night. But this wasn't a light film, but a movie that would shed light on a dark subject.
But the one thing that all experts agree on is that at this stage, the fetus can't feel anything.
Unplanned is a movie about Abby Johnson's powerful conversion on the issue of abortion. Johnson was a former director at the Planned Parenthood clinic in College Station, Texas. Johnson, who had 2 abortions herself, had a dramatic change of heart after seeing and assisting with an ultrasound-guided abortion in 2009.
I saw it, and it was like it was twisting and fighting for its life.
Mass Citizens for Life held the special pre-screening event. C.J. Williams, MCFL's Director of Community Engagement, also worked on the movie. She has a background in film. Williams helped with social media and promotion.
I mean, I've known Abby for many years now, and when I first read the book, I was like, this would make a really impactful movie. If people could see her story visually on screen, how could they ever go back to a lukewarm approach to abortion? Both because of what you see, what it does to the clinic workers, and because of the visual, visceral response to seeing a baby die in an ultrasound.
The movie was produced by Christian film studio PureFlix, which also released God's Not Dead in 2014. Unplanned is based on Johnson's best-selling book and was filmed in Oklahoma. Johnson has been sued for telling her story.
I think this type of movie, I think storytelling and art is exactly what will turn the tide. Because legally you can change everything you want, but you can't change someone's heart with a law. A story goes below the intellect and it goes below your guard and it connects with you in a relational way. And when people come out of a film like Unplanned, they say, I saw myself in Abby Johnson and I saw her integrity. I saw her heart for women when she went into the abortion industry, and I saw her see the reality of what the abortion industry was doing to women.
Students at the Newman Center have been involved in pro-life activities for many years. Some of them, including senior Jasmine Moss, recently founded a new non-denominational group, UMass Pro-Life. Why did you want to come and see this movie today?
I wanted to see this movie mostly because the woman Abigail, she was totally pro-choice and a very strong advocate in a leadership position. And she totally changed her mind once she saw an abortion actually happen. And I think that a lot of people would have that conversion of heart if they kind of went through her story. And I just want to see her courage, because it's really hard to go from this side of the spectrum to the other side of the spectrum.
The movie explains how Abby Johnson's story intersects with the 40 Days for Life campaign, which is held across the country and right here in Springfield. Volunteers are asked to peacefully pray in front of abortion clinics. After Johnson witnessed the ultrasound-guided abortion, she turned to the very people who used to annoy her, the founders of the 40 Days for Life, who consistently prayed outside her clinic in Texas.
We commend the souls of these hundreds of children. And Lord, we pray to end abortion.
The very first campaign was held in College Station, Texas. She turned to Sean and Marilisa Carney, two of the original founders of the 40 Days for Life, for encouragement to leave the abortion industry. The movie moved both men and women at the pre-screening. Is it hard being a guy, talking about this subject here at UMass?
I think people will try to make it hard, but half of the people that are aborted are men.
Do you feel like the needle is moving a little bit? Do you think that there's more pro-life young people like your age than?
I hope so. I really, really genuinely hope so, and I think we have to stay positive, and we have to stay really hopeful for the future.
22,000 abortions. How do I even comprehend that?
The movie will be in theaters nationwide March 29th. Reporting for Reel to Reel, I'm Carolee McGrath.
And Unplanned will be featured at the Cinemark Cinema at the Eastfield Mall in Springfield beginning on Friday, March 29th. It comes at a critical time here in Massachusetts as the state legislature is considering a number of bills which, like the controversial New York state law, would allow abortions right up to birth. We'll have more on that in the coming weeks. And another movie offering is just a week away as the Offices of Youth Ministry and Faith Formation sponsor a big screen showing of the movie Paul, Apostle of Christ on Sunday, March 31st at 3 p.m. at Pope Francis Preparatory School in Springfield. Tickets are $10 and can be ordered by calling 413-732-3175. That number again is 413-732-3175. And as an added bonus, this event will include a live discussion with film producer Eric Groth. So don't miss out on this unique Lenten showing. And for this week, that's Reel to Reel. Remember, for updates anytime, head over to our news and information site, iobserve.org. For the latest news on the Catholic Church, that's iobserve.org. And join us again next week at this same time for another edition of Reel to Reel, your window on the world around you. Have a great week.
Reel to Reel is a production of the Catholic Communications Corporation, funded in part by the annual Catholic Appeal, and the support of you, our faithful viewers.